Look at him. I mean, you can see why he won the Coty Fashion Critics Award. You can see why he won. Oh, that dress. Oh, that brooch. You can see why he won the Neiman Marcus Award. Just look at these, the textures, the appeal, just beautiful. This whole video is all about Scaasi, and I did want to include, and so I went back and I put some slides in the beginning so you get a sense of that costume jewelry aesthetic, a sense of this wonderful designer's design aesthetic. Oh, the high quality faux pearls mixed with rhinestones, just absolute Scaasi. All those colors, no fear, fearless, big. So beautiful. Oh, the polka dots. So many other people have been influenced, so many fashion designers by those polka dots. Hello everyone, this is Lex from Gentry Collectables, and today I'm going to be talking about costume jewelry, particularly Scaasi costume jewelry. I hope in the future I'll be able to do all the big names so you can see the stamps and get examples of those in detail, but today will be Scaasi. First thing though, pro tip, Gentry Collectables happens to be on Etsy. That's where we happen to sell. I actually have, aside from William, 3 other Etsy shops. One of them happens to be an art gallery, for example, where we sell things like prints, watercolors, handmade graphite art. So as an Etsy seller, I can give shoppers out there an inside line on my side of the screen, what happens when a sale is going on. And something that I've noticed so here's a pro tip for people who shop on Etsy. If you don't make an account and you use what's called guest shopping, so when you are logging on and it says, would you like to shop as a guest, or would you like to take 30 seconds and make a profile, and you go, I'll just do the faster thing, I think it's more convenient, shop as a guest. When you do that, you lose out big time, because when you shop with a profile, a history of your purchases gets created with the people you shop with. So when a buyer comes back to my store more than once, if they have an account profile, Etsy will actively show me, the seller, this person has come back twice this month. This is now their 4th purchase with your store within the year. Things along those lines. And then I not only appreciate them, I appreciate all my customers, but returning patrons, it's wonderful as the seller to know when someone's a returning patron. And I just have to tell you, all these Etsy shops, if you want the coupons, discount codes, even more personalized thank you notes, and when we insert handwritten thank you cards. When you're shopping as a guest, all I know is that you are an unknown, and it's assumed that it's your first time shopping with me every single time. So I have no way of knowing if it's been your 5th time, if you spent $300 or more that month. I have no way of knowing. And every single time you're just going to get the same insert note, which is really a shame. It's like, thank you for shopping and coming to my store. Whereas if you have an account, you can build a patron relationship with the people you're buying from. And I can build, as the seller, a patron relationship with you as my patron. So if you come back a 3rd time, I'm more likely to then put in a free watercolor postcard with your 3rd print from my art gallery, because you've been back 3 times, and I really adore that. You're supporting the arts, you're supporting small business, you're supporting my store. If you have an account made and you come back a 5th time, I'm now more likely to say, put in a free reusable eco-friendly tote bag with the store's logo on it as a freebie, like swag included in your order. So keep that in mind when you're shopping on a lot of these sites, Etsy included, and you have an option between guest shopping or creating an account. Creating an account, especially on Etsy, as a seller, I can tell you, it's really good for you as the shopper. Take the time to create the account. You're going to be happy about it. The people you buy from are going to get to know you. It's a better experience overall, and it's better for you. Now that I've given you that little insight, it's just such a shame. Sometimes I feel like a lot of people are returning, but because they're signing out or they're checking in as a guest, that I have no way of appreciating them in the way I want to. So I just wanted to point that out. It's a great thing. Make an account, then I'll know who you are. Then you can start conversations with the people you're buying from. Another pro tip, you can ask almost Etsy. Well, you can ask. It never hurts to ask. But if you're buying a gift for someone else from an Etsy shop, and that Etsy shop doesn't clearly define, we do gift packaging, or we do gift messaging or anything like that. But you're buying a gift to ship directly to someone's house. So say like you're coming to the Gentry store, for instance, and you're buying a piece of vintage jewelry for, say, Valentine's Day. And you're sending it maybe to, your girlfriend, like happy, be my Valentine, which is a charming Victorian tradition, which has long gone out of style. I have no idea why, because it's brilliant. But let's say you're doing that and the Etsy store doesn't say we do gift cards or we do gift wrapping. Just ask. If you take the time to write a little message that says this is a gift for someone and it's going directly to their address, because that's what you're doing when you're putting in the shipping information, you're having it shipped to them. It is incredibly rare that any store will not take the extra minute to write a wonderful little card, maybe like Happy Valentine's Day from Sarah to Andrea, right? Or to take the time to wrap it a bit nicer so that it feels like a gift during the unboxing process. And you can ask. Even if a store doesn't offer that service, it never hurts to ask. At the very least, even if they say, no, we don't do that, they're going to now have a sense that their shoppers might enjoy or appreciate that service. So you might be helping with feedback, customer feedback in that way. So that's just another thing to consider. You can always ask. Whatever it is with Etsy, one of the great things is you're really dealing with real people a majority of the time. Just write them a message. So let's move on to costume jewelry. Scaasi. First of all, everyone hears this name, Scaasi, and what do you think? Italian, right? You think Italian designer. So this is a piece of Scaasi jewelry. Let's see if I can show this a little bit better to you here in the light. Isn't that amazing? So these are actually German crystals. I don't know if I can get it close enough for you. So these are not fake, like totally faux paste stones or, cheaply made glass stones. They're actually, and this is one of the things Scaasi is known for with his Runway jewelry, is they are gem cut. So he would get high-end, German crystals, Swarovski crystals, rhinestones, and give them gem cuts like marquee cuts and pear cuts. You can kind of see it in that purple there. See how amazing that is? So this very high attention to better quality and detail in faux jewelry, in costume jewelry. So that's something just to keep an eye out for, something Scaasi is known for. So Scaasi, again, sounds so Italian. There's your stamp right there. See that? The CN actually refers to it. Excuse me. Throat's a little rough. So the CN actually refers to the fact that this is a sterling piece, which means it's an alloy. And no, sterling doesn't always mean silver. As you can see here, likely a gold plate or a gold mixed alloy. Higher quality than most with Scaasi, but other costume jewelry designers do the same thing. So you can see that there. It doesn't always mean when it says CN made in China. I know some people have that in mind. I think they must all be reading the same blog, which it can mean that, but it doesn't always mean that. Far more usual, especially with pieces from the 50s, 60s, is that it means sterling to some extent. And then people think, oh, sterling has to be silver, so that can't be right. That's not what it means. It means it's an alloy. Excuse me again. So, Scaasi is not Italian. Scaasi is actually Arnold Isaacs. Let me show you that name one more time so you can get a sense of this. He took his name, Isaacs, and simply wrote it backwards for marketing purposes. See that? It's just Isaacs backwards, becomes Scaasi. And he did this because he wanted to sound more exotic. He wanted to sound attractive. It was wonderful marketing. It was brilliant. And let's be honest, he wanted people to take the time when he opened his own designs and his own businesses. He wanted people to look at his work. And he knew that the best way to get people to look was to have an exotic Italian, very high fashion. It was seen as being very high fashion. Same thing today, right? Italian fashion designers. That people were more likely to take an interest. And let's be honest, people needed to look at his work. So can you blame him? It's amazing. It's incredible. But he was not Italian. His name was Arnold Isaacs, and he was absolutely Canadian. It was just everyone in the fashion scene was Italian designers were sought out after, like they are today. He graduated from the School of Design in Montreal, again, Canadian, right? And then he was enrolled in, the Chambre Syndicale de la Haute Couture, which is French and fancy for basically a school of high fashion. It was the syndicate of high fashion in Paris. He enrolled there, but what he wanted is he wanted to apprentice and he wanted classes with Dior. And the more he talked to Dior, the more Dior was like, you're talented. You're going to have to wait too long to get to work with me. Go to New York. Just go and start now. Don't spend the time waiting for me to be able to spend time with you. Just get out and do your own thing. Find someone to work with there immediately, because New York was the place to be then. And so he took that wonderful advice and, he did. He worked for, now this is a fashion savant and icon, Charles James. I didn't know much about him until I started looking into Scaasi's background, because I don't do a lot of vintage like dresses, like high fashion couture, and like cloth and textile materials. It's just I've never really had a reason to research a lot of it, so I didn't know much about it. But Charles James was the creator of like the taxi dress. He was very famous in New York. He had this high architectural aesthetic to his designs, which were pretty incredible. He was really well known. So anyone that's into fashion is probably going to recognize his name. And because he was doing, couture work, Scaasi learned all these, attention for immaculate detail, how to work with and perceive different materials and, different applique textures and techniques like feathers and seed beads and crystal rhinestones. Like Scaasi made a very famous crystal rhinestone dress, which is in like this beautiful nude color. You could look it up online. But anyway, so all of this came out of working with Charles James, that this very, heavy minutia of visual textures and layers and form was kind of what he took from his mentor, kind of the aesthetic he was able to build upon. And again, much faster than waiting around for Dior to grant him any sort of teaching or apprenticeship or lessons. So by the 60s, after working with Charles James, he was already making moves. Scaasi began wanting to open his own companies and opening his own companies based on his own designs. So like his first early 60s, I'd say late 50s, because his first Vogue model appeared on Vogue in 1958, I believe. So in a way you could say he had arrived by 1958, that he was well into business and well perceived in fashion, because when you're on the cover of Vogue, you have made the scene. So there's that to think about. And Scaasi made beautiful, elegant gowns, pantsuits, cocktail dresses, very often hand-tailored for the celebrity clients he was creating for. I know I'm not moving the jewelry around very much. I swear I will. But so I'm just trying to give you a little bit of background. This was his fashion background. This is where his beautiful costume jewelry aesthetic comes from, was working on runways. So like if you think of 1969, there was a very famous Streisand outfit. Barbara Streisand accepted her Oscar in this sheer, it almost looked like lingerie, like a negligee, but with this beautiful bell-bottom flare. And it was just this black pantsuit. It was gorgeous. And it was the talk of the town when this happened, right? Like it was a big deal, and that was a Scaasi design. So he would hand tailor, do some couture work for actresses, celebrities, presidents' wives, all the first ladies, like 5 different first ladies. Just really amazing coral and seed bead gowns, like in these beautiful pinks and teals. he would make even dresses for princesses. I'm sure you could go online and find some of them of, these ambassadorial royal delegates that would be coming through New York while doing tours in the United States. He would make them clothes as well. So, and like I said, a lot of first ladies, right? So you have he made dresses and pantsuits for Jackie Kennedy, for Mammy Eisenhower, Barbara Bush, Hillary Clinton, Laura Bush, Princess Yasmin, who else? Actresses, Elizabeth Taylor. He made famous Elizabeth Taylor gowns. Catherine Deneuve, Joan Crawford. Just to give you an idea of how made this man was in fashion, this Canadian designer with this Italian marketed name. Arnold Isaacs was brilliant, and the world got to see all of his work, which was incredibly good. So the jewelry came from, he made jewelry to go with his runway designs. He was not okay with trying to pair, clutches, handbags, boots and boot buckles, anything with his runway gowns and cocktail dresses and designs and fashions. He wanted every detail to be immaculate. He wanted every detail to be made by him so that it all worked in perfect harmony. So what we wound up with was amazing jewelry designs from him. And I mean, it's just so incredible. This is actually a retired runway design. Now, not all of his pieces are retired runway designs. They are a little bit more desirable when you can find one and when you can find that history to a piece, because people who are into fashion are going to enjoy something that was on a runway. That's a pretty big deal. But all of his jewelry, I mean, beautiful pendants, brooches, earrings, just incredible stuff. When we think about costume jewelry too, this is something to think about. I remember when I went to buy this, William was actually, he was there with me, and he doesn't know very much about jewelry yet. He's just getting into it. So he assumed that this was worthless because it looks so new. It's in wonderful condition. See how shiny. It's very iced out. It's very bling. It almost has, because Scaasi was such an artisanal designer, it almost has what feels like a mid to late 90s feel to it, even though it isn't from that era. He was just a little bit ahead of his time in this beautiful design. But so sometimes someone who maybe isn't an expert or is just beginning in the world of jewelry and costume jewelry will see something like this and say, it's too shiny, it's too nice, it can't be real, it has to be worthless. It has to be modernly made, or it would look older or tarnished or something. Don't fall for that. That isn't always true. Also, if it's costume jewelry and it has any kind of a stamp, take the time to research that stamp. You'll be amazed at the wonderful history you'll find about these designers. Like, I didn't know anything about Charles James before I got to research Scaasi. So just a world of fun, and you'll get to find the wonderful value of these pieces. But don't assume because it's shiny that it's brand new and therefore worthless, or because it has so many stones and because it's a fake, that might make it somehow worthless or worthless. These stones are German cut crystal, and that makes it a very valuable bracelet. He usually designed a lot of earrings, runway earrings. I feel like I should mention that. He was very famous for these very large, the layers of texture and color, visual layers that would complete a runway look. So, and then this great success he was having really brought a lot of contracts to his door. So when you're famous, when you're doing well, suddenly everybody who wants to make anything wants to license with you, because if I'm making a perfume, I want you to design the bottle. If I'm making a fur mantle, I want you to design the way it falls over the shoulders. If I'm making, again, like say shoes or buckles for belts, I want an artisanal designer to step in and put his signature, his flair, his beautiful touch and thumbprint on those pieces. So a lot of people were approaching Scaasi to do a lot of different contracts, a lot of different licensing and work. So there are a lot of pieces by him out there. He accepted a lot of those contracts and he would do a lot of those things. So, but when we think of his jewelry, especially his fashion jewelry, so runway designs and costume jewelry, 1958 to 1965, that is what you're dealing with. There was one line that was a fine jewelry line, known as the Scaasi Jewel Collection, which wasn't faux and it wasn't costume. So don't always assume that if you're looking at a Scaasi piece that it's fake or false or faux or costume jewelry, because there is a possibility that you're looking at something that was actually designed in Paris and was made to go with his butterfly print dresses. And he used real diamonds, real sapphires, and real golds, real silvers, not just base metals and sterling alloys in that high fashion line. Now, it's very rare to come across one of those, but it's a possibility. So again, don't always assume that everything is fake. When he did, these costume jewelry pieces, like his fashions, they were always big and bold. They were made flamboyant. If you look at his dresses, I'll try to put some slides of his dresses towards the end of the video if there's enough space, because he was in New York. He was designing for larger than life personalities. It was big, it was bright, it was splashy, it was colorful. Now, that's not to say that he didn't do elegant evening wear. He also did that. But his statement pieces, bright polka dot dresses, things along those lines, very 1950s through 1980s New York. He would work in costume jewelry with large cabochon stones, a lot of, again, base metals of gold and silver, but high level alloys that look amazing. So not, the cheapest versions of metals. Again, superior Swarovski rhinestones, synthetic stones that were almost always supplied from Germany. And then, crystals, fine crystals cut with gem cuts. And all of these things, just striking, startling color combinations, never just maybe one color and then an accent color. Instead, you have every color. You have the purple and the green and the red, and it's not trying to be subtle. This is not trying to be a subtle necklace or a subtle bracelet. Look at that. That is an eye-catching statement piece. So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking at a piece that has that sort of aesthetic. And it should have the stamp, but that's possibly a Scaasi piece. That's what he was known for. Brightest possible gold tones and silver tones. Striking. That's what I think when I think Scaasi, and that's how I recognize it before I ever flip the earrings or the bracelet over. I can see him from a mile away because I'm thinking 50s, 60s New York, and that is what it yells that from across the room. Faux, jewels and stones and faux metals never look so good as when Scaasi got his hands on them to put on the runway, so that even the person in the back of the 4-lane seated audience would see these bright, amazing pieces of jewelry. And he was just winning award after award, from the 50s right through the 80s. So when you're thinking of the timeline, that's the timeline that you're thinking about. So just show you that piece one more time. That's Scaasi. I don't want the video to get too long, but there's a beautiful example. And I will definitely try to talk about some of the rest of these designers and faux jewelry versus fine jewelry in the very next video. Thank you.